It's time again for another installment of the basics, and moving back into the Star Trek card game, I want to talk about the Federation affiliation and why it's always such a go-to affiliation to make a deck. And even though I've said on this show about building a kick-ass board deck or starting off with something like the Klingons, the Federation has everything you could want for a deck. Let me show you why. Now, before I even get into these cards, let me start by saying the Federation affiliation has the most personnel in the game out of any of the affiliations. And not only that, you have your standard Alpha Quadrant personnel, but you also have the Delta Quadrant personnel on the Voyager crew that was added in the Voyager expansion. You can build an awesome deck in either quadrant and still have so many people left over. For example, when First Contact came out, it gave us updated versions of the Next Generation crew with the special Starfleet staffing icon that goes with the Enterprise E, which is awesome in itself because range 10, weapons 9, shields 10, weapons plus 3 versus board ships and board ship dilemma. So your weapons go from 9 to 12, just like that. Plus, if you have Picard, this version of Picard, and you have Captain's Log in play, you've just made the Enterprise E extremely powerful right off the bat. And that doesn't even take away from all of the attributes that the bridge crew from Next Gen and First Contact has. It's amazing. Then you get more into the legacy characters and the special cards that came out. So you have Admiral McCoy, Montgomery Scott, Admiral Riker, and Captain Kirk. Now, even though they are alternate universe cards, they are awesome to have in a Federation deck. And yes, I do have them in mind. They sit in my Q's tent side deck quite nicely. You've got Worf. You've got Spock. And yeah, there are other versions of those cards that came out in different sets as well. In terms of ships, you have the Enterprise D. You have the Defiant, which is the only Federation starship with a cloaking device already on it. You have the USS Sao Paulo, if that floats your boat, which became the second Defiant. You have ships like the Phoenix, the Odyssey, the Galaxy. You have runabouts, like the standard runabout. You have the Rio Grande, the Yangtze Kiang. There's more than enough ships to go around in the Federation. And then when you go back into the personnel, cards like Thomas Riker, who has a command icon. He's an officer, leadership, navigation, geology, music. That's huge for a lot of missions. Admiral Hayes. Each of your Federation ships at same location is weapons 1 and shields 2. So you just get a bonus for having him on that ship, plus his leadership. You have more legacy characters. Sarek, Eric Pressman, who's an officer engine engineer. Sarek has a diplomacy of 3. That will get you past most missions by himself that require diplomacy. You have Lojal, a Vulcan from Deep Space Nine, very useful. Another special card that's an alternate universe icon card, Ensign Tuvok, very, very useful card. And then you have from some of the older expansions, you have Lieutenant Sulu, Mr. Spock. From alternate universe expansion, you have Jack Crusher. Look at the attributes that these cards have. Are you kidding me? They're perfect for any Federation deck. Doesn't matter that they have the alternate universe icon. I've showed you ways around that. You will never run out of ways to customize a Federation deck. There is just too many personnel, too many ships, so many different ways to make a deck. And then don't even get me started on Voyager, what you can do with that and the personnel involved and the bridge crew from Voyager. The Federation is the way to go if you want to make a deck the easiest possible way with the most amount of cards. Now, most of us who have played the Star Trek card game since it came out in 1994, we started off with Federation decks, mainly because of what I mentioned earlier in the show about the abundance of personnel and ships and cards that go with it. It was only natural to make a Federation deck. That notwithstanding, even though we did go later and make Klingon and Romulan and whatever else, the Federation is the way to go if you want to make a deck and not have to worry about anything while building it. The sky is the limit with the Federation. There are that many cards to put in a Federation deck. That's all for today. Have a great day.